एक सेकंड में इनका वेबिनार स्टार्ट कर दूं, फिर मैं आपको लिंक दे रहा हूँ।
Hello, good morning, Dr. Deepthi.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Madhu.
Yeah, good morning.
We're just waiting for some participants to join.
Sure,
Then we can start.
sure. I'm just trying to, it says host disabled attendee session screen sharing. Can you please give me
Sure,
5
sure,
seconds?
sure. Yeah, I'll get that.
Sure.
Now you should be able to share the screen, Dr. Muthu. Can you check?
Yeah, I'm just checking it. Yeah,
Sure. Let me know if there are any issues.
sure. You are able to view the screen now?
Yes, yes,
Cool. All right. Thank you.
yes.
So we'll
Yeah.
wait for a few more minutes and then we'll get started.
Yeah. Yes, 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 please.
Hi, good morning, Muthu. Good morning, Dipti.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Shreya.
So we'll wait for a minute and then we'll start.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I hope the slide is visible in a presentation mode, right?
Right now, we are not able to see the screen.
Oh, is it? We're not able to see the screen?
No,
We can
we are
see the
able to
video.
we are
Okay.
able to
Oh,
see the screen.
Okay.
yeah.
Let me just.
I'm presenting the slide. Let me see whether any glitches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's visible now.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to the online session on regulatory requirements for medical devices and diagnostics in India. And I'm Shreya Malik. I head the biotech and medtech startups domain at the Startup Incubation and Innovation Center at IIT Kanpur. And we are delighted to have with us Dr. Muthu Dandapani, who is a well-known, renowned regulatory expert, and also Dr. Deepti Chu, who's my colleague from the Startup Center, and she looks after the medical devices center of excellence at the Startup Center. So we decided to organize a webinar on this important topic, considering the importance of medical devices in healthcare in the country, and also how important quality assurance and regulatory compliance is important for commercialization of medical devices. So thank you so much, Muthu, for joining us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Shreya, for the warm introduction.
now to begin with the webinar for which all other participants and our startups have gathered. So I would pleased to inform you, Dr. Muthu, that we have a very vibrant medtech innovation ecosystem at IIT Kanpur. We have state-of-the-art infrastructure and facilities and several innovative startups within our campus. And this was the burning question amongst all our innovators. We have innovators who are at the ideation stage, as well as we have innovators who are in the market, and some of them are in the middle stage at different levels of prototype development. And I hope everyone has a very insightful session with you today. Now over to you, Deepti, for starting the session. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Shreya, for the kind introduction. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker for the webinar, Dr. Muthu Dandapani. Dr. Dandapani is a seasoned expert in quality and regulatory compliance with over 20 years of experience in medical device, including software as a medical device, digital health and diagnostics industry, spanning the Europe, United States, and APAC regions. As an IRCA CQI certified lead auditor for ISO 13485-2016 and an expert in global in vitro diagnostic regulations. He holds certifications in Six Sigma, GMP, GCP, and GLP. He is actively engaged in industry forums like Chopra, RSPS, CQI, and MDG Boston. Dr. Dandapani also mentors 12 bio incubators and technology business incubators based startups across India. His contributions have been honored with the Indian Achievers Award in 2018 and Bharat Vikas Award in 2019. Today, he'll be sharing insights on regulatory requirements for medical devices and diagnostics in India. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Muthu. Dr. Muthu, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti. And first of all, before I would like to begin the presentation, I would like to thank IIT Kanpur Incubation and Innovation Center for the wonderful opportunity. And it's always a pleasure to interact with startups in medtech, so to guide them on what they need to do. So with that, I will begin the presentation. So the title for the the topic of the presentation today is understanding the regulatory requirement for medical devices in India. So I have not explicitly mentioned the software as a medical device or digital health or diagnostic because they are also fall under the category of medical devices. So in India, we have we have a medical devices and diagnostic as a two fragment, but then eventually the IVD also falls under the medical device. And so what we are going to see today in this online session is basically relevant to the startup who are developing products in medical devices, diagnostics, therapeutic, or as a software as a medical device. So, so the agenda would be learning about the prototyping and testing, what to be done, and implementing the quality management system in your manufacturing unit or in a contract manufacturing site, and learning a little bit about the clinical study, conduct of clinical study, and navigating the regulatory approval route and what best suits your organization, and then a little bit on the statutory matters because the medical device industry doesn't operate only with the quality and regulatory. There is also a statutory component that needs to be taken care. And then how to set up a manufacturing facility or what to take care of the manufacturing facility for your inspection, and in general the challenges and best practices what to be followed, right? The challenges what is currently, and then what is the best practice to address. So this is the agenda. So a lot of time the medtech founders, co-founders, they come and ask me what is the first thing that we need to do, like whether should I go for a 510k US FDA approval or CDCSO approval, CEDESCO approval, or the CE certificate. So if you look at the CE certificate, there are two different things. Again, one for explicitly for diagnostic, one for medical devices. The CE certificate 745, that is for medical device, and 746 for IVD. So now the answer is, before we go out of India, first we need to gain the regulatory approval for the country of manufacturing, right? The origin of manufacturing, where the country, so where the manufacturer is located. So country of origin of manufacturing is important to gain a regulatory approval before even think about going overseas. So, but then the founder or co-founder may not be sure about how to navigate, and they would sometimes they start doing things by themselves. So the suggestion, right, is to take an expert opinion at least one time, because as a founder co-founder, you may know how to develop the product, but then if you miss out the quality regulatory angle, then it will be delay in taking your product and placing in the market. So the word of caution is we have to take a external expert vetting at least one time to understand holistically what is required for your medtech company or for the product. So as I said, it is not just the quality and regulatory alone. If you look at the medical device company, medtech company, we need to follow a 360-degree compliance. When I say 360-degree compliance, it starts from your R&D. I think you all know when you do R&D, in order to recognize the R&D work that you carry out, the DSIR certificate is something important for the long run, right? So because when you take the company, when the company is matured, when you take it for merger and acquisition in future, or when you want to make exit, or when the investor want to invest, the question will come whether your research was conducted in a legitimate place. So when the R&Ds get over, that's where your design and development start. But then you need to have a recognition from a government to state that you have conducted this medical device development in a recognized center. So, and then in order to procure all your raw material, you should have a import-export code. That is the second statutory requirement. And then if you are procuring something like weights and measures from overseas country, for example, thermometer or digital weighing scale, then you need to also consider the legal metrology license. Or if you are importing any batteries, lithium batteries or Wi-Fi Bluetooth adapter, then you need to have also the BIS certificate, Bureau of Indian Standard certificate. And eventually to import any medical devices or diagnostic for testing purposes in India, you need to have an import test license, you need to have an import license for commercial purpose, or if you want to store them, you need a warehouse license, or in order to manufacture of your own device, you need a manufacturing license. And coming to the clinical trial, and new drug clinical trial rule has been implemented in the year 2019. So it means if you want to conduct a clinical study for your device or diagnostic, you need to abide by the rule that is in place. And if you are working on a digital health platform and you are using artificial intelligence and machine learning, then there is a guideline from ICMR that needs to be considered, especially on the clinical trial side. So when you conduct a clinical trial site for generative AI or machine learning, there is a guideline, two set of guidelines have given, and you need to follow either one of this. So this will make sure that you follow the right amount of expectations, which is expected out of this AI/ML output in terms of clinical utility. And there is something UCMDMP, that is a Unified Code for Medical Device Marketing Practices. So in order to market the medical device, there is also a compliances in place. Again, this is recently introduced by the government. So for example, if you are developing a device and then you want the physician to advertise the device, about your device in the social media platform or something. So there are some limitations that they can do. There are certain restrictions they have to follow. So, and also if you are inviting any physician to talk about continuing medical education, through about your device, then there is also certain amount of ceiling, how much you can spend on the doctor, accommodation or the flight or the, say honorarium. So there is also a guideline, drafted on that, and then it is being slowly implemented. And even to do sales, there are 24 category of medical devices where you can increase only 10% on the MRP, that is maximum retail price. So today you are selling it for 1,000 rupees one unit, and next year you can only sell it for 1,100 rupees. So at any cost, you cannot increase more than 10% from the MRP rate. So there is also a regulation around this, statutory around this sales, the MRP that you can keep for the product. And then if you are talking about complaints, any adverse event or any complaint that occurred due to your medical device performance, then the material vigilance program is the one that takes care of all that. And then this is the MVPA Act under the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, but this is a wing that takes care of the medical device and IVD complaints. And if your medical device production leaves any electronic waste, then the e-waste regulation also in place from the CPCB. You need to register your unit. When you are manufacturing a medical device, there will be some wastages of electronic, like battery, lithium battery you may waste, or some tungsten bulb you may throw, or some wires and plugs you will throw. So all this electronic waste has to be registered and handed over to the refurbisher for the recycling. So if you look at this, it is not just about getting a SEDESCO permission or getting a quality certificate, but there are more than the quality regulatory. There are statutory, there is a clinical, there is a marketing practice, there is a trade compliances. So all that is important for a medical device company. So if you ask me what are the four main bucket that a founder, co-founder has to look at, so I would say the first big ticket item is device prototyping and testing, because that's where your design and development start, and then you have a prototype ready that can be tested at the next level, for the next level of performance. So now you need to do the safety testing, that is through IEC 60601 standard. So once your working prototype is ready, you have to think about what are the components that needs to undergo testing. So you will be having consumables, you will be having accessories, you may have any optional accessories. So that all needs to be checked. For example, if you have a battery inside, lithium battery, or if you are using a Wi-Fi Bluetooth adapter for your IoT devices, all that needs to be tested through the BAS labs, the Bureau of Indian Testing Lab. And quality management system is something very important to look at, especially when you are planning to export the devices outside India. So for example, ISO 13485 certificate is not mandatory to have a manufacturing license from SEDESCO. But then if you are planning to ship out the devices or diagnostic outside India, the distributor or the buyer in overseas country, they may require you to have a ISO 13485 certificate. So in India, as per the fifth schedule of IMDR 2017, you just need to have a quality management system implemented, the evidence for that implementation. But you don't need to show a certificate as such. But then for export of medical devices, your channel partner or distributor or any customer, they would need 13485. And if it is a digital product like your SAMD, software as a medical device, or if it is a web application or a Dockerized app, anything, then you need to have a ISO 27001 certificate. This is called the Information Security Management System. So this is something that you need to implement along the way. And the third one, once you have a device prototype and testing done, and then you have a quality management system implemented in your facility, the third thing is to look at your clinical study, and you need to have a clinical, the evidence for your clinical utility. So that you have to carry out a small study to making sure that your safety and performance has been vetted by the original manufacturer, that is you, who are developing the medical device or diagnostic product. So ideally, once you develop the prototype, you need to apply for a test license. Once you get a test license, you subject the device for various testing. For example, some of the unit you may test it for packaging validation. Some of the unit you may check it for the electrical safety, like IEC 60601. And sometimes you have to check for if it is a sterile product, you have to look at the sterility. You may have to test the sterility. You may have to test the stability of the some of the biological molecule like a DNA, RNA, protein, and if you are, especially if you have IVD. So you need to get a comprehensive understanding on how you have to carry out, right? So the IEC committee approved the first step. Once you get a test license, you need to give some of the devices to the physician who will actually test it on the real time, right, on the patient in the clinic or in the hospital. So the IEC committee approval enable you to carry out the study legitimately with a permission from government. And then the CTRA registration. So once you get IEC committee approval, you have to register your study protocol in a website called the CTRA, that is Clinical Trial Registry of India. It is managed by ICMR, and you will be allocated with a registration number. Once you upload, it takes like 10 to 14 days, and then you get a registration number allocated, and that number has to be cited in all your research publication, whatever you're going to publish out of this study. And so typically in medical devices, unlike drugs, there is no phase 1 to phase 4. It's only a pilot and pivotal. So if you are working on a very novel, innovative device, then you need to first apply for a test license, and then do the pilot study. Then again apply for one more test license to conduct a pivotal study. That is you will do with a large number of patients. In pilot, you will do with the minimal number of patients, and then in pivotal, you do with a large number of patients. So once you have a clinical data ready, now you are kind of ready for your SEDESCO approval, manufacturing license. So in India, the regulatory approval is governed under the license scheme. So there are two different licenses. One is import license, and another one is a manufacturing license. A manufacturing license is a one where you seek a approval to the country regulatory authority to come and inspect your site and product, and then grant a approval. So for class A and B, it is called Form MD5, and for class C and D devices, it is called Form MD9. So this is a manufacturing license that you can market your product with this. And then if you look at the overseas approved product, if it is a CE certified or if it is FDA 510K cleared, then you can also get a import license. So basically you have to talk to the original manufacturer, have an agreement, and then you can import the device into country by registering through a form MD14, and in turn you will get a license MD15, form MD15, that is your import license. With that, you will be able to legitimately import the devices into country. So the first step, as I said before, the device prototyping testing. So what all needs to be considered? So as a founder, co-founder, you need to make sure that you are sufficiently producing working prototype for testing. As I said, you need to do testing in various levels. One is for the packaging, one is for the sterility or stability or transport, or you may be doing it for the EMI/EMC testing, that is the basic safety testing. So you need to have enough prototype, working prototype for you to subject it for various testing. And if you have any radio frequency devices, for example, you are working with the Bluetooth or IoT connector or Wi-Fi Bluetooth adapter, based IoT devices, then you need to check for radio frequency, right? So as a part of your EMI/EMC, you need to consider also radio frequency testing, and especially if you want to, go for US FDA approval or CE certificate, what they would ask is a wireless coexistence testing certificate. So basically to see whether Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is not interfering with your devices. So this is something that you need to consider. You need to spend, and a lot of time people, they don't spend money on this kind of testing, and then when they're about to ship the devices, the customs will not agree to export your devices because you do not have a wireless coexistence testing report, and they will not be able to ship out of the country. So it is very important. You have to think through all the testing which is needed. It is not just for the device that you are, but also you have to consider the accessories, consumables, whatever you are going to ship out, along with the device pack. You need to see whether it is testing is needed, because a lot of time nobody tells you that you have to do, but only you know as a manufacturer what all accessories and consumable you will be packing and you will be shipping out. So it is important to think through this, the accessories and consumables requirement, and also keep them as part of the testing process. And if there is a lithium battery inside, you need to do CB testing. And if there is again a radio component that will be shipping out to, if you are intent to ship out to European Union, then you need to have a RED testing, that is radio equipment directives testing. And if you are planning to send it to US, then you need to have a federal communication certification, that is FCC. So these are the testing. It comes in addition to your safety testing. And if it is an IVD product, then you need to think about the sterility, stability, and if you have a reagents with the closed container, then you need to check the integrity of the container and how well the integrity is maintained after packaging. And if there is a temperature level product, you have to check out. You have to check on the transport. The excursions which will happen during the transport. So you have to check the temperature. The differences during the transport. And if it is a medical device, it is going to touch on the human surface, right? Like BP cuff or ECG cable or SpO2 probes, that they need to undergo a biocompatibility testing, making sure that it doesn't cause any irritation or skin sensitization to the surface of the skin. So you need to do the biocompatibility. So these are some of the tests. I have not given the exclusive, the battery of tests, but then these are some of them. And also, sometimes you may be developing a diagnostic which is already approved by the SEDESCO or FDA or European notified body. Then in that case, if it is not novel, then you have to subject your device or diagnostic device or IVD kit for performance equivalence evaluation. For example, glucometer, or if it is a HIV kit, then this has to undergo a performance equivalence evaluation from a nationally recognized laboratories like National Institute of Biologics or CCMB, CDFD, or Institute of Pathology. So these are the lab where you can avail the services for a minimal fee. So only with this, EDESCO will be able to agree that your prototype has some, have a qualification to proceed for the licensing. And coming to the quality management system, depending on what product you develop, then the quality management system also something differs slightly. So if you are developing a IVD kit or a medical device, ISO 13485 is the only quality management system which is recognized across the world, and it is needed, especially when you want to ship out your devices outside of India and you want to export. Suppose if you are intent to get this approval from US, then there is something called quality management system regulation, which is going to be mandatorily asked by the FDA from to the 2026. So right now there is a transition going, but you need to start preparing now so that you will not have any challenges in compliance. Will be conducted at the same time for various geography, meaning among these five, you can have simultaneous audit at the same time, concurrent audit, so that you don't need to worry about complying. Quality management system will differ from country to country. For example, Europe follows EN ISO and US follow KMSR. And so if you are planning to have a manufacturing unit, or if your device is produced in any two or three of these five country, then it is better to consider the medical device MDSAP as your preferred certification. And if it is a digital product, as I said before, ISO 27000 2022, that is the latest edition, that is the information security management system. It is a quality management system for information security and also data privacy. So this is something expected. For example, if you are developing a standalone app where you collect all the patient demographic information, or if you are developing a web application, then this is something needed. So with this only, you will be able to convince your customer that your data, whatever the patient data that you are gathering, it is stored securely. And coming to the clinical study, be it a device or diagnostic or software as a medical device, the first thing what you need to do, you need to think about the biostatistics analysis, because how much patient you need to consider is the first question will come when you want to think about a clinical study. So the answer is it should be statistically significant number. Like basically the sample size should be statistically significant. So who will answer this question? A biostatistician. So you need to take a help of a biostatistician you need to give enough evidences to him, like a peer-reviewed publications or about your, the disease, the prevalence in country. So all this detail you have to give, and then with that they will be able to derive how many patient you or how many healthy individuals you need to consider for your, device study or diagnostic kit study. Then once it is done, you have to plan your pilot study with the IEC committee approval, and then you have to consider the test license from Cedesco before you begin the study. And as I said before, the CTRA registration is important, because if you do not have a CTRA registration, maybe your publication may not be accepted in the international journal. And also, sometime for critical innovative devices, Cedesco will not take this if you do not have a CTRA registration. So they may raise a query during your application. And also, if you are planning to market your product in Europe or US, it's very important to consider about considering adding those cohorts, like adding those ethnicity into your study. So maybe you have to have a minimum 50% of European or US population. Suppose if you are planning for a CE certificate, you need to have a 50% of European population in your study. And if it is a US, you are planning to sell in US, then you need to have 50% of in a population coming from your US. So this is and definitely when you consider Asian, and apart from India, if you want to consider marketing your product globally, you can also think about other patients from other country or healthy individuals from other country. So it is always good to have a good different diverse ethnicity group considered in your study, so that increases your confidence to the the physician or regulator, right? And talking about this regulatory approval, so as I said, you need to have first in-country approval, that is approval from Cedesco, that is apex body regulatory authority in India, would oversee all the drugs, devices, cosmetics, IVDs, biologics, and digital product. So you need to first gain a test license before you subject your device or diagnostic kit for testing purpose, external testing purpose. And then you will obviously apply for either MD5 or MD9 license. Suppose if it is a contract manufacturing, there is a process called loan license. So you need to apply for a loan license, because you do not have a facility, but then you will be leasing out, you will be renting out someone for a manufacturing facility. So you need to apply for a loan license. And if you are importing a device and you want to resell it, for example, you manufacture a glucometer, but then you don't manufacture a glucose strip, and then you have contract manufactured in China or Taiwan. Now, in order to import the strip from Taiwan manufacturer, you need to have a wholesale license, because either you should have a manufacturing license to import, or the minimum is you should have a wholesale license to import. So the wholesale license is called MD42. So if you have a MD42, then it means you can sell, stock, exhibit those retraded product. So you can manufacture a glucometer, the physical device, and then the strip can be taken from Taiwanese manufacturer, and then you can sell it together with the MD42. Because you are not manufacturing the glucose strip, so it is important to have the wholesale license in order to distribute in India. And suppose if you are importing and retrading and the whole device, then you need to have an import license, which is MD15. So in order to get a import license, there are four things very important. One is you need to have a GHTF country approval, that is global harmonized task force country, that is US, Canada, Japan, Australia, EU. So these are the country where the approvals are considered as a GHTF country approval. So you should have a CE certificate or 510K or any of the Health Canada or PMDA Japan or TGA Australia, anyone. And then you need to have in-country approval. Suppose you are going to take it from US, then 510K clearance mandatory. And then the free cell certificate from the country of origin is important, along with the 13485 quality management system certificate. So if you have these four items, like a quality management system certificate, free cell certificate, and in-country approval from the country of origin of manufacture, and this is a preliminary thing that will tell you that you are good to go for import license application. So you have to think what you are going to do, whether you are going to buy it and retrade it, or you are going to manufacture partly, or you are going to completely outsource. So these are the the licenses which are needed for these combinations. And as I said, the statutory compliance is something very important, which may hinder your business. If you just get the ISO certificate and then the SEDESCO approval, that is not sufficient to place your product sometime. For example, if you are developing a glucometer or thermometer, SpO2 probes, and all these devices the prices are regulated. So you need to register these devices in a portal. There is a separate portal, IPDMA portal, and you have to disclose that the unit price, what is the MRP. And if your device is a radio frequency device, for example, if you are using any SIM card, like a 13-digit SIM card in your devices, or if you are using a Bluetooth or Wi-Fi adapter in your IoT medical devices, then you need to have a approval called, it's a regulatory approval from TRAI, that is Telecommunication Regulatory Authority of India. So you need to have a WPCET approval in order to sell such kind of radio frequency devices in India. So this is a regulatory approval for radio frequency devices, not for a medical devices. The approval is given by SEDESCO. And suppose if you are developing a digital health product, for example, you have developed a web application which has a artificial intelligence and machine learning, and then you are offering this service over the cloud, over the internet, through other countries. Then you need to register something called Softex registration. So this is from a government enterprise called Software Technology Parks of India. So if you offer the services to overseas country and then not registered, then this will attract a penalty. So basically this comes under the FEMA Act and under the RBI guideline, that is regular Reserve Bank of India. So I request all the startup who are working on digital health product, please make sure if you are planning to sell outside India, please register early so that you will avoid all those penalty, because this will be, the notice will be issued by the enforcement directorate, and then it's a non-bailable offense. So, and it's very important that if you are offering a software as a medical device service, it could be a simple software service, you will be billing a overseas customer, then it is very important to register the Softex registration certificate for your organization. And if you want to sell in government, I think you must be knowing you have to register through GEM, that is a government e-marketplace registration. So where you have to register and then list your product, so that the government agency or any other agency who want to procure your devices, they'll be able to procure it through the GEM portal. So essentially, you need to register your product, list your product, and be there with your MRP, and somebody will give you the purchase order online. And extended producer responsibility is something you need to do for the e-waste. So as a part of your manufacturing, there will be a lot of residual electronic waste that you will be producing. Those electronic waste, you cannot recycle it because you don't have a facility in-house. So you need to ideally hand this over to a third-party agency, which is empaneled with the CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board. So it is like filing IT returns every year for yourself. So you need to tell them how much electronic waste you produced every year, and then who is your third-party handler for the recycling. So they will give you a manifest that needs to be showed during the SEDESCO audit or any notified body audit, or even for FDA audit. So this is something not many startup does, not aware of. So this is something that you need to register. You need to basically have a agreement. The way you are submitting the biomedical waste to the agency, a third party agency for the recycling, this is for the electronic waste. So this is something that important for all the medical devices, especially if there is an electronic component involved, then this is something important. And I think we discussed about this unified code for marketing practices for medical devices. This is enacted by the government now. Everybody has to disclose how much you are spending for your medical device marketing, because a lot of time, just by giving some kind of favorable thing to doctor, they promote the medical device or diagnostic, and that has to be controlled. So government has introduced this marketing practices. So this all comes under the statutory. It is not just the regulatory, you get a SEDESCO approval and then go to market. But while you are considering regulatory approval as a key, these are the other peripheral thing that you need to consider to keep your company and product and sales in compliance. Talking about the software as a medical device. So in India, Sedasco has in the year 2021, they have given a 60 different medical specialty like gastroenterology, nephrology, neurology, and they have given a 60 different specialty, and under which they have classified all the possible softwares. So if you look at, there are around 60 categories, and they have listed, they have published, and all the software. It could be a augmented virtual reality software. It could be a artificial intelligence, machine learning, or it could be a imaging software. Anything and everything comes under software category. There is nothing like a software as a medical device, but all the softwares in India which has a medical function pertaining to diagnostic or therapeutic, it all falls under software category. So if you have to develop a software, what is important is to offer this your software product to government, you need to integrate your product with the government system, right? So that is called Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. So under the National Health Mission, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission unify your applications like web app or standalone app with the existing government platform like eSanjeevani. For example, if we have a diagnostic report and if the doctor has to consult a patient on online, then you need to be compliant with the ABDM integration. So there are three levels, M1 and M2, M3. So if your software, if your digital health product has to go to the last mile in villages or primary health center or community health center, then you need to think about integrating your software digital health platform under ABDM integration model. And your data has to be, again, if it is a thermal, if it's a imaging like a digital X-ray or CT scan or MRI or any image based system that you have developed, then your PACS, that is picture archiving communication system, and HL7 has to be compatible. So this HL7 compatibility and PACS compatibility will be checked during the ABDM integration. So the integration is something that you need to think, because once you develop the product, if you're not able to go to government, then you may lose out the government orders, government business. So you have to think from the beginning. After your product development is done, then you need to immediately start integrating your software product with the ABDM. And talking about compliance, because you are going to use a lot of patient data, the demographic information which will come into your app or web app or any Dockerized system. So you need to consider the information security as a core, because in the software business, information data security is the key. Like nobody else will look at anything other than whether the data is stored securely in your on-premises server or cloud system. So it is important to think about if your customers are in US, then you need to think about implementing a HIPAA safeguard. If your customers are in Europe, then GDPR. And similar to GDPR and HIPAA in India, there is a Digital Personal Data Protection Act is going to come. It is going to enact it. It is already in the draft mode. So this is something important for you to comply, because now all the hospitals are started asking this question whether you are DPDP compliant. And also you need to thoroughly validate the entire system, your cloud, your firewall, your the tool that you use. So it's called CSV, computer system validation. So whatever you use to build your product, you need to validate thoroughly, holistically. And especially when you have artificial intelligence, you need to do something called threat model validation. And also if you are planning for US launch, the cyber security is something that they are asking now. You need to do a cyber security check for your firmware and software. And if it is just a web application, then you need to consider doing a web application security assessment testing. And if it is a standalone app or something, then you need to do also the VAPT testing, that is vulnerability assessment penetration testing. Again, if you are thinking of offering this to US or Europe, then you need to have the 21 CFR Part 11 complaint. That is something like Acrobat sign or DocuSign. So all the documents should be electronically, digitally signed and dated. So you may have to think of using those tools instead of using a paper-based system or just a scanning of the physical document. And also the OTS and SOUP validation. That is, when you develop a software, you may use a lot of off-the-shelf software, that is OTS. then SOUP, that is a software of unknown provenance. So these are the element that you will use to build your software. So they need to be also validated. The way you are doing for physical product like a packaging validation, transport validation, and temperature validation, you need to do also the software validation, all of the software validation. So this fulfill your compliance for your software as a medical device. And coming to the facility, so a lot of startup, they incubate in an incubator, and then once they mature, they go out and they want to build their own facility, or they want to do the technology transfer to the contract manufacturer to scale the manufacturing. So if you plan to set up your own manufacturing unit, then you need to look at your facility design, starting from your AutoCAD diagram, whether you are doing the unilateral flow which is needed for your manufacturing. So, and also you need to think about your air handling unit, how well you have to design, because if it is a sterile product, there are only certain amount of people can work in a in a given square feet of the space. So you need to think about all that, and then you need to think about your process validation, like how you will handling the sterilization of the product, how will you handle the main material movement in the facility, and how will you validate all the document that the facility through a proper documentation, right? And also you need to take care of your particle count. Like for example, if it is sterile product in a clean room, there is a limit for your particle sizes, particle count, and also the bioburden that you can you can accept for your manufacturing. So these all needs to be taken care. So if you are a matured startup and then you are seeking a fund from investor to build, then this is something that you need to consider critically. And in general, the challenges in Indian medtech startup environment is a lot of startup, they develop innovative product. As we know, startup mean innovations, right? A lot of innovations happen in the startup space and MSME. So the product may not be exactly aligning with the status quo regulatory framework, that is Indian Medical Device Regulation 2017. So developed country like European Union or US FDA, they may have a very clear guideline. For example, if you are talking about a Fitbit kind of watch or Apple Watch, they are all called as they are all considered as a medical device. But in India, the Apple Watch is not considered as a medical device. It is considered as a wellness product. So you may not be able to apply a regulatory approval if you have a single lead ECG or BP detection or SpO2 detection in your Apple Watch. You may not be able to seek a regulatory approval from Indian authority because our IMDR is not covering those kind of special case devices. But if you look at FDA, there is a clear cut guideline on how to what kind of route you need to take and how to validate, and everything is clear. So it's well regulated space, so you can get a clarity. But in our country, we may not have that kind of clarity. So there is some amount of gray area that you need to work through with the expert, and then see how you can fit into the existing IMDR regulation in order to get a license for your product. And also lack of expert advisory, because when you do not have a regulations in place, obviously you may not even have the expert in the country. So you may have to sometimes seek out external overseas advice. So that is something other again challenging for startup. They cannot spend so much money in taking the external opinion from the other countries, developed countries. And also the global predicate may not be approved in India. For example, Apple Watch, if you look at the Sadasco website, the Apple Watch is not, though it is a FDA cleared, nobody is importing it. It's being imported as a wellness product. It's not under the medical device category, so you will not see. So if some startup is developing a watch, some similar to the Apple Watch, then they don't have any predicate. So this is another challenge. So the challenges are at a very system level, that you need to work with industry expert and see how you can still fit yourself into the existing thing. So the best practices, I don't want to go into the facility again or clinical or quality or regulatory, but what I want to tell you here is the sales and marketing is always something people say something on the website, but then it is not aligning with your in the information for use or something like that. For example, if you are developing a product brochure, the product brochure will talk more about your marketing, and your website will talk about more about the marketing. But your IFU is it's a legal document. Instruction for use is a legal document that you will be submitting to the regulatory authority. So the IFU on your website and browser should align the content, whatever the claim that whatever you are saying for your diagnostic or digital health product or medical device, it cannot be two different things. It should be the same across the your electronic or collaterals or any marketing material that you develop. So if you are writing about your intended use, for example, for a medical device, then your device master file, IFU, and all that should talk the same thing. It cannot be two different things. And obviously, your browser website also should align. And MRP is something that we discussed. So you have to clearly, explicitly mention in the unit and also in the outer carton box how much is the unit price and how much you can sell for maximum, because you will be supplying through distributor. At any given time, the distributor should not exceed the MRP. And also, when you have the quality management system certificate or regulatory approval, you should be very aware what can be put on website and what can be put on product, what can be put on the outside cover, what can be put on the brochure and website. So you shouldn't be put all the logos on the product, which is not acceptable. And also, you should have a disclaimer very clearly between your diagnostic report and the website. So if you are saying this is not included, I'm not considering this is indication, it should be a disclaimer very clearly popped out in your medical device report. Suppose if you have a ECG machine and then you are not identifying certain condition, you have to explicitly mention that I'm not this is not identifying a condition like myocardial infarction. It has to be very clear. And then we all develop a product and then we also name a brand name, but then what a lot of time the startup, they fail to register their brand name. They basically they don't do the trademark registration. So if you are because brand is everything for you in the business. So if you are developing a medical device or diagnostic kit, the brand name has to be registered. Then only you will be able to bring this into the license. Otherwise, you will get a license in a generic name, and your competitor may take your similar name, and then they may also give you hard time. And also the IP filing. It's very important if you have to scale your business, if you have to attract, if you want to attract investor to scale your business, it is very important to focus on an IP. And also the DUNS number. That is, you have to have a unified digital numbering system for your manufacturing facility that will be uniquely identified by investor or any overseas player. So applying for a DUNS number will give you some kind of edge in USFDA application or any investor attractions. So this is something on the sales and marketing. All the startup, I want you to think through and then consider these pointers. And I think the rest of the facility and quality, clinical, and the regulatory part we have covered already. So maybe with that, I'll stop here. Maybe we can open this for floor for questions. I'll be happy to answer because I know that we cannot cover everything in one meeting, but then I want to give some time for the founders and co-founders to ask their questions, and then we can take it from there. Thank you. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dhandapani. I think it was a very valuable and insightful session on the regulatory requirements, which is a very complex topic in the field of medical technology. We have a few questions posted in the Q&A or in the chat box. I can serially ask those questions if that is fine with you.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, so the first question is the approval needed for foreign digital companies planning to test or pilot in India? By Mr. Darshan Nayak.
So the question is it testing is needed if
so this is for foreign digital companies if they want to
product
test
is approved overseas, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So if the digital product is approved in overseas country, and they also need an import license to come to India. So let's say there is a cancer imaging diagnostic platform which is developed in let's say in Singapore, and then they want to offer the service to Indian hospital or Indian doctors or Indian patient. They need to get a SEDESCO import license, that is Form MD15, to offer this legally in India. Otherwise, it will become a violation because unless they take an import license, they cannot legally market the product, though it is a digital product, though it's a web application based, or it could be a cloud-based software, or it could be a standalone application. but whatever it is regulated. So they need to go through the licensing scheme. They need to take a MD15 license to market legally in India.
Yeah, I think it has answered his question. Please raise your hand if you have more question to Dr. Dundapani.
Mute and you can ask yourself if it is not
Yeah,
visible.
you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. You can also put the questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box. The next question is by Mr. Faizan Sheikh. The question is, can you tell us in which stage we are going for test license? That is MD13.
Yeah. So as I said, it was the third or fourth slide I remember. So when you are finished with your prototype, so you are making sure that there is no more iteration, there are no more changes in the design. Then that's the time you have to apply for test license. So test license has to be applied after you freeze your prototype design. You have to freeze everything like enclosure, accessories, everything, and then apply for test license. That's the ideal time. So when your prototype design is completed, frozen, you are not going to make any changes. Maybe you will make changes after 2 year or 3 year, but at least for next 2 year you will not make any changes. Then that's the time that you have to apply for MD12, and you will be given the test license in Form MD13.
Thank you, Dr. Muthu. And this is a follow-up question on the foreign digital companies when they want to test or pilot in India. So he's asking, what are the approvals needed for this process? If you could
So
elaborate on that.
sure. You need to first check the SEDESCO approved website. So there are SEDESCO approved medical devices list available for both manufacturing in India and also import. So if you are the software digital product, if there is a predicate already approved in India, then you don't need to conduct any trial. You can apply for import license, and then you can import the digital product. You can market it here in India. Suppose if your digital product is first time and it is not known to the Indian regulator, SEDESCO, then you need to apply for a import test license, that is MD16, and then you will be granted in MD17. And also you need to do in MD22, I believe, for the innovative product. So you need to have a innovative. So basically, it's a permission to conduct a clinical study for a innovative device, which does not have any predicate device in India. So that you need to do, and then you need to first do it in one center with the minimal number of patient, and then again apply for a test license for a pivotal study. And once it is done, then you will be submitting the data. You will be applying a form called MD26. Then the subject expert committee will go through that, and they will give you a permission for you to apply for a manufacturing license. Then you will apply for either MD5 or MD9. So it's a long process. It takes around 3 years, 2 to 3 years, if it is an innovative device. If it is not an innovative device, then it's a very straightforward. You can apply for import license.
Thank you. So the next question is by Mr. Arun Raj Ilamaran. Are there additional regulatory approvals and facility modifications required for establishing a manufacturing facility for future production?
Yeah. So as I said, when you develop your manufacturing facility, you will be fulfilling the fifth schedule of IMDR 2017. So basically, there is a checklist the drug inspector will use during the manufacturing site inspection, and he will check the environmental conditions, cleanliness, bioburden, particle count, and all the PPE usage, and all that will be verified. But if you are changing your facility after the licensing, then it will be considered as a major change. So and you need to submit all the facility validation document. For example, if you are expanding the room from 200 square feet to 500 square feet, then your air handling unit validation, your particle count validation, your environmental validation like a temperature validation, humidity validation, all that has to be bioburden, all that has to be submitted through post-approval change. There is a process called post-approval change. So you need to apply through the online Sugam portal, and then wait for the approval to be granted, and then you can continue your production. So they may not seek any on-site inspection, but if there is a need, they may come, but it is a discretion of the SEDESCO officer.
Sure. We go on with the next question. So when will be the time to apply for first license, and which license for a breath biopsy handheld device? I think it's a specific question for a specific device. So if you
Yeah,
can
sure. So,
elaborate.
so you need to, as I said, first you need to apply for a test license. The test license is the way that you notify to the SEDESCO that you are developing something, and after you get a test license, you subject it for other testing. Like it could be a biocompatibility testing or EMI/MC testing or validation. With the transport, sterility, anything. So that is the first license. Second license is your manufacturing. So in order to apply for a manufacturing license, there are few basic requirements, right? One is the facility. Either you may have or your contract manufacturer may have a facility. That is first. Second is your test license. So either you have to apply, if you are developing a prototype in your facility, you have to use your address to apply for a test license. Suppose if you are, even for prototyping, you use your contract manufacturer facility, then you need to apply using their address. The MD12 has to be applied in their address. Then your MD13 will come. And there's the second thing. Third one is your clinical. So you need to have a clinical study, or if it is a established product, you need to have a literature route where you will convince that you don't need a clinical study separately. Then the fourth one is your device master file and associated document, like a risk management file, and then safety testing report. So once all this ready, then you are ready for your manufacturing license. So the manufacturing license is your second license, but then you need to first apply for a test license. These are the two licenses you need.
Thank you. So the next question is foreign manufacturer required to mandatorily required to register with UCM PMD when marketing in India?
It's a good question. So yes, because when you get a import license, your product also regulated by Indian regulatory authority. So whatever the regulations is put forward for the manufacturers, Indian manufacturer, it is also applicable, because when you want to import certain device, you appoint someone called authorized representative. That is a Indian citizen or a company that you will be they will be representing your product of overseas. So that person is again legally liable to follow this. So yes, your ECMDP is needed, has to be followed if the product is imported. Yes, still it is under the purview of the ECMDP law. So you need to abide to that. It is applicable for both import and nationally domestically manufactured product.
There's so many questions. We can take up the questions online in the session, or if you have more questions from the speaker, you can also email Dr. Muthu. I think he'll be happy to answer the questions through email as well. And also, he has shared his phone number. I'll just take some of the questions more for the session. So, how much time it takes to get CDSCO testing approvals, if you can answer?
Testing approval takes 45 days. So from the time of your online submission, 45 working days it takes. So you'll get a test license within 45 business days.
Sure. So, someone wants you to summarize the regulatory approval slide from CDSQ, from Sangra Innovations. There's someone from
Yeah.
Rahul Dixit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So first is a test license, then your manufacturing license. Suppose if you are importing any, semi-finished goods like strips or PCB meters, that again comes under the import regulation. So, for example, the IVD strip, like glucometer strip, it is considered as a IVD. So though it's just a strip, it can take any blood and then it can throw some output to any glucometer. So even if you mistakenly insert, then there could be some result. So they consider as a IVD kit. So you need to think, if you are directly importing from overseas country, that is also a medical device or IVD. You need to, if it can work independently, then you need to think of import license. And then the fourth license, if you are importing such kind of thing, you need to have a wholesale license to distribute, meaning to sell, stock, and distribute. You need to have a MD42, that is a wholesale license. So you need to have that license. So these are the four licenses for a Indian medical device company. You need to think through test license, manufacturer license, import license, and wholesale license. These are the four licenses that I can summarize for the domestic distribution.
So, just a follow-up question on that, like someone is asking, how is wholesale license different from the import license?
Yeah, so the base to apply import license is your MD42 wholesale license. Either you should be a manufacturer with a manufacturing license like MD5 or MD9. If you do not have, and you are a startup, you are developing, but still you want to import import a strip or you want to import any accessory, consumable, anything, then you need to first apply for MD42, which is given by the State Drug Control Department. SLA, we call it as a State Licensing Authority. So the first step for you is to get a wholesale license, that is MD42. Only when you have a wholesale license, then you will be able to create an account, and then you will be able to apply for import license. So you cannot apply for import license if you do not have a manufacturing license, which is MD5 or MD9, or wholesale license. So the wholesale license is a prerequisite to apply for a import license.
Yeah, I think that answers his question. So the next one is, what is the ideal time to consider about the regulatory pathway? Can I consider about this even during the ideation itself? Or if I do so, will I be overshadowed by the regulatory easyability with the effectiveness of the solution? So they're asking about
Okay,
the
good.
perfect timing for the
Yeah,
regulatory consideration.
good question. Yeah, good question. I appreciate. I think you need to think through the quality from your design and development. The reason is, when you are choosing a component, for example, let's say somebody is developing a Internet of Medical thing, like a IoT based, sensor based device, which is going to talk to a platform like a web application, or a SAMD, or a standalone app. So now, when you are thinking about the Wi-Fi adapter, Bluetooth adapter, and there will be some Wi-Fi Bluetooth adapter which comes for home appliance grade, like air conditioning, or just to turn on the light, turn off the light, you will be using some Wi-Fi Bluetooth adapter. That is not going to help for a medical device, because medical device safety is much more stringent. And then when you are subjecting the medical device as a whole with your Bluetooth Wi-Fi adapter built inside, it will fail in the EMI/MC testing. So now, if you ask me, when is the right time to think about quality regulatory, it is from the design and development. It is not after your product prototype is ready you have to think. No, you have to, even in choosing the material, you have to be careful about what you need to choose, because if you are importing something for your own development, and then that also require a import license. For example, you develop a glucometer, PCB meter here in India, but then you do not have a technology here in India to print the glucose strip or hemoglobin strip or whatever, then you will be depending on the other overseas country like Korea or Taiwan or China. Then those require a regulatory thing, right? Because you cannot just buy one time and then finish your research. You may need maybe 100 steps. So somebody may misguide you, saying that you take 10 steps and then you can finish your prototype. It is not possible, because you will be the stabilities matter, because you will be taking more time to develop the glucometer, and you need to use that strip more than 6 months. And what if the strip expires? So you cannot take a shortcut. You have to think through what all you need to develop your medical device. Do I need an accessory, which is a medical device? Do I need a consumable, which is a medical device? Is it available in India, or should I have a license to procure, like an import license? Even if you have to take it from somebody and then resell it, let's say you don't need to develop, you don't need to manufacture a glucose strip. You develop only the PCB meter, but then you want to take the strip and then resell it. Let's say you are taking from a company A and then you want to give it to all your customers, then it requires a wholesale license. So the idea thought process has to be from your design and development. Quality regulatory cannot be a sequential. It has to be integrated all the way. It has to be a continual thing. So I would recommend all the co-founder to think about your quality regulatory, like, because it is not just a certification or regulatory approval. It is also about your testing, and also your clinical validation, and also about your usability testing. So if you are using let's say SPO2 cable in your device, and what is the length is needed, that you need to think through. So all this kind of safety, the clinical utility and usability, all that you have to think through your design and development perspective, not just as a certification or regulatory alone. Okay, so your from your product design stage, you have to think about your quality piece and then regulatory thing.
Yeah, coming to the next question about the clinical trials. Is clinical trial required or mandatory for a startup to go in the healthcare market in India and abroad with new PACS innovation? Also, what are the statutory compliances? The question is also posted in the chat section by Mr. Sujit Kumar Saha.
I couldn't hear you.
Okay.
Can you please repeat
Yes.
the
Yes.
clinical trial question? There was a pause. I couldn't hear you.
Sure.
Please.
Sure.
Rahul Dikshit, I can see.
Yeah.
I couldn't see. Yeah.
So in
What is the name
webinar
of?
chat, Sujit Kumar Saha.
I'm unmuting him, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Yeah. He's
Okay.
being
So is
unmuted.
clinical trial required, mandatory for a startup to go in the healthcare market? Yes. Clinical, see, Sedasco does not have a two different, regulation, one for startup, one for MSME, or one for corporate. SEDESCO rules and regulations are applicable across the segment, right? It could be MSME segment, it could be a startup, or it could be a corporate. So you need a clinical study. It's not a clinical trial. Clinical trial is for drug. Clinical study, it's called clinical study. There are only two phases: pilot and pivotal. If your device is innovative and or IVD kit is innovative or digital product is innovative, definitely you need a clinical study. And if it is a first time or novel or innovative, and if it is established device, then you can do a comparison, like device to device comparison. Let's say there is a Roche glucometer which is approved by Sedesco, and then you are also developing one more glucometer. Then you can compare with the Roche, which is benchmarked and regulatory approved, and then you can prepare a report. You don't need to do a thorough clinical study with the patient. Maybe you can do it with the 10 samples or 20 samples or 25 sample, and then you can compare. You can give a demo. I mean, the justification that it works as it is by the as it is given by the regulatory approved device. So that is a equivalent study that I was talking about, right? That we can do. So it is a case to case basis. There is no one answer for on the clinical study. It is a case to case basis.
Sure.
And I see a question: is IEC import export from DGFT? So IEC import nothing to do with the import of medical device. The import license is for pertaining to the medical device, but IEC import IEC code certificate is needed even if you do service. Even if you are taking a service from overseas company, let's say a consulting service from a overseas company, if the customer is going to pay you in dollar, if your the service provider is going to pay you in dollar, and the money is going to come to your company account, so it is for the statutory purpose. It is for the financial purpose. So import export code is not for a regulatory purpose. It is for a statutory purpose. So you need to have a IEC code. That certificate is online. Your auditor will be able to apply and then get it in a few 1 week time. So IEC certificate is nothing to do with your import license, but you need to have a import license. I mean IEC code in order to take any services, in order to import any product, medical devices. You may have to mention this IEC code in your import license label. That is there, but this is something statutory requirement. You need to have IEC code, even if it is a small consulting business. It is good to have, because you never know when you will be able to bill your foreign customer in other currency. So it's good to have that IEC code. Yeah.
Sure. So someone wanted you to, if you could just give a short go through browsing of the CDSCO website, how to browse, what sections on the website. So if you can briefly elaborate on that.
You see, there is nothing like guided, how to browse the website. There is whatever the detail you need, there is a search bar. You need to put your, if you go to Google and type Sedasco approved medical devices, you will get a direct link. And then you go, there are two columns. One is the import license and another one is the manufacturing. Then again, there is a search bar. You can just put the brand name of the device or a manufacturer name, and then you'll get the license detail. So, and if it is a medical device, this is a thing, or IVD, this is a thing that you can check everything, because there's a database, is dynamic database. You can come to know what is the manufacturer, who is the importer, and then what is the intended use, what is the license number, and what is the category of devices. It is A, B, C, D, and who has granted. All this information will be there in the portal. So you can just type it in Google; it will take you directly to the particular hyperlink of the Cytoscope portal.
Sure. I think we have answered most of the questions being posted on the in the Zoom session. So if someone else has questions, they can write to Dr. Muthu or
Sure,
give
sure.
a
I will
message.
also share the presentation with you. You can circulate your.
Yeah, and we can have a follow-up session if there is so much of interest. I think there's huge interest in this field. People usually struggle through the regulatory approvals of the medical devices and medical technology. So I think this suggests us to have a follow-up session. If it is, yeah, we can work on that and answer the rest of the questions if someone has more. In pursuit of the time, we would like to close the session, today's session. And I would like to sincerely thank Dr. Muthu Dandapani for investing his precious time in guiding you through the different licensing processes for the regulatory approval of your medical devices. And yeah, thank you, sir, for your time and your very elaborate presentation. And we'll get back to you with the follow-up session if it has been
Sure.
needed.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
everyone.
you.
And
Yeah,
then
thank you, participants, as well.
Thank you.
I,
Have a good
yeah.
day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Thank you
Bye-bye.
all.
Bye.
Bye.